Okay, let's get right into this one. Today, we're breaking down a pretty wild theory about a massive shift in global power. It's basically a story of two competing visions for the future. And, it all kicks off with a really, really weird mental image. See, I told you it was strange. The whole argument is that a new kind of global intelligence has, and I'm quoting here, grown not as a bubble, but as a surface space furball. It's bizarre, for sure, but that phrase is absolutely central. You gotta wrap your head around it to get the whole argument. So what on earth is a surface space furball? It sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, right? But according to this source, it's a metaphor for a new reality that is already taking shape. And to really get it, we first need to understand what it's being compared to. At its heart, this is a clash between two totally different systems. On one side, you have what the source calls the Western finance bubble, a top-down, centralized model that it claims is failing. And on the other side, you've got this global neural network, the so-called furball, a bottom-up, decentralized model that it sees as the next big thing. All right, so first up, let's dig into the model that the source claims is on its way out. It paints a pretty critical picture of the system it calls the finance bubble. So what do they mean by that? Well, it's defined as a system where a few elite, centralized groups are calling all the shots. But here's the kicker in this analysis. It's not just that the model has problems, it's that it's literally running out of gas. The source claims that the money and the global influence that powered this whole thing for decades, it's starting to dry up. And the source really doesn't pull any punches here. The argument is that this model offers very limited real choice, even calling Western systems biased democratic oligarchies. Yeah, pretty strong words. The claim is the focus is all on markets, not people, and that the whole structure is just becoming financially exhausted. Okay, so if that's the problem, what's the alternative? This brings us right back to that wonderfully weird image from the beginning, the global neural network, or as the source calls it, the furball. And here it is. The furball isn't a bubble. It's not a single, hollow sphere controlled from one central point. Nope. Instead, you're supposed to think of it as a complex, kind of messy, but super interconnected web of intelligence that's just growing organically all over the planet from billions of different points. So what are these points that make up this global brain? Well, for starters, you've got the over 2 billion PCs out there in the world. Each one, in this view, is like a potential neuron in this gigantic network. But that's just the beginning. Get this, you add to that the nearly 7.5 billion smartphones that the analysis projects will be active by 2025, all of a sudden, you're looking at a network of almost 10 billion neurons, all connected, all capable of processing something. So how do all these neurons talk to each other? Through what the source calls internet synapses. Now, the idea here is that these devices aren't just for scrolling social media. They're passing around tiny little pieces of AI models, token-way packets. Think of it like this. It's like billions of tiny brains constantly texting each other little pieces of what they've learned, all at once, creating this massive shared intelligence that's always getting smarter. And here's where the source makes a really provocative claim about just how efficient this is. The argument is that this machine-to-machine knowledge sharing is mega parallel, meaning countless streams of information are flowing perfectly, all at the same time. And that's compared to human communication, which, let's be real, is more like a single, slow, and often flawed game of telephone. The machines are just way, way better at it. Okay, I know this all sounds pretty high level, maybe a bit abstract, but the source points to one country as the prime example of where this furball model is already happening in the real world. China. And to back this up, they point to the money. We're talking a projected $125 billion that China is pouring into AI in 2025. The source argues that this capital isn't aimed at markets in the same old way, but at people and infrastructure, which fuels that network growth. And it's not just about spending. The analysis names specific AIs like DeepSeek and Quen. But the key phrase here, according to the source, is open source. This isn't about creating locked down, expensive tech. It's about making powerful tools super available and affordable. And that right there is the fuel for this decentralized furball model. This all leads to a pretty bold claim about democracy. The argument is that by having billions of users sharing and contributing to these open AI systems, you're creating a broader, more inclusive knowledge stack than the more closed-off, proprietary systems common in the West. So, we've talked about bubbles and furballs, but what's the bottom line? What does it all really mean? Well, according to this analysis, this isn't just some academic debate about technology.
We are talking about a fundamental shift in how global power itself is structured.
And this quote just lays it all out there. It's not a subtle prediction. It is a direct claim of intelligence domination by one model, the decentralized, open for all, that will in the end burst the centralized Western market bubble. Wow, it's a powerful and definitely provocative idea. And it leaves us with a pretty critical question to think about. Is the future of global power no longer just about armies and economies, but about who builds the most effective, most widespread, and smartest network? Is the future being written right now in code?